Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Ushma Tyagi and I shall be your host today. In episode 1 of season 5 of the Strategic Digital Dialogues webinar series, in association with Dell Technologies, Microsoft, and VMware, we will be speaking with IT leaders and solution experts for a better appreciation of what goes into successful digital transformation. For the first episode today, our webinar theme is Reinventing Enterprises for Agility and Acceleration. That is, we will explore how organizations should create a sense of urgency towards the convergence of digital and physical assets and processes, how agility can be orchestrated through a systematic set of process improvements and governance without impacting business resurgence and economic revival. Over the next 1 hour or so, you can expect to hear IT leaders and digital transformation experts share their insights and experiences from real life case studies and solutions implemented and the resulting business benefits. Now, without further ado, I hand you over to Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Research Officer, Strategic Solutions, to take the floor, introduce our guest speakers, and glean key learnings and insights for you from the world of enterprise IT leaders. Over to you, Arjun.
Hello and good morning. My name is Arjun Vishwanathan. I'm the Chief Research Officer at Strategic. And today we are going to be in discussion with two very eminent experts, practitioners from industry to talk about, in this episode, which is titled Mobilizing Artificial Intelligence and Transforming Data from Capital to Business Asset. We're going to be talking about the whole concept of how data, when infused with artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities, can help and enable organizations to transform themselves in, well, fairly unprecedented manner. Because as a preamble, I would like to mention to the audience that's tuning into us with us today, is that any organization's success in general, and especially with the onset of digital transformation as a common paradigm, is significantly impacted by the maturity of its knowledge and intelligence capture. While the first step in moving up the maturity curve really is indeed capturing knowledge. Knowledge transforms into intelligence only when it is retrieved correctly and from its very source, the source of data. And to talk about all of this, please join me in welcoming Unmesh Deshpande, Chief Technology Officer at Kingsway Hospital. Unmesh, delighted you could join us, sir.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And Rajat Arora, Senior Director and India CTO at GUS Education India. Rajat, privileged that you could join us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arjun. Good morning to all. It's always a pleasure to be talking to you around the world of technology that's evolving and education around it. So,
absolutely. And Rajat, in fact, I am going to start with you about this whole concept of where digital transformation is now embedded, perhaps, I beg your pardon, to the very largest degree in the strategic business objectives of organizations. It is equally imperative, therefore, for organizations that are today, given the backdrop of the recent disruption we've had over the last 1 year, for organizations that are trying and striving to craft resurgence, resilience, and hypercompetitiveness, how important is collecting, capturing, storing, processing data? How important is that in the overall journey of translating that from just data into a business asset, which drives insights and future strategy? Rajat Arora.
so in my view, Arjun, the promise of AI within, and I'll talk about the education sector in particular, is to provide this personalized learning, the skill development and the employability, as well as bringing efficiencies and cost effectiveness to a variety of admin issues that we encounter. So basically, in that context, it is useful for us to look at AI through the lens of business capabilities rather than technologies. Broadly speaking, AI, as we know, could be classified into the three main components, and which is, of course, the automating business processes, gaining insights through the data analysis that you just mentioned, and then engaging with customers and employees. So in terms of process automation, it's the RPA for us, which is the most, I would say, advanced than the earlier business processing tools, automating tools that we encountered, because we use robots in such cases, right? Which is pretty much a code on a server, which acts like a human, inputting and consuming information from the multiple IT systems around. So that's one of the most important, I would say, aspect of automation, right? Which the data is fed into, and we of course get to the second aspect of it, which is the cognitive insight through that data. And it is through the AI algorithms that you're able to detect patterns, and through the vast volumes of data, and then interpret their meaning of it. Uh, and I think primarily you're looking at solving an objective for an organization through the AI technologies, and I think it's through the data that AI learns from those examples, and then both from past and real time examples, and then it acts as a fuel to the algorithm, and then basically achieve the objective, the underlying objective that you're working towards. So yeah, I mean that's essentially my take on the fact that how data is being used as a business asset, and how data is transforming and bringing in all the insights and sort of transforming the business landscape in general.
That's a fairly interesting set of points that you made, because Amish, I'm going to beg your pardon, take that to you also, which is that you're at the center of healthcare, provision of healthcare, and of course the entire peripheral activities of labs, post operative care and so on. How important does data become, or how foundational does data and therefore AI infused data led insights, how imperative are they in driving hypercompetitiveness as well as adaptive agility within organizations and hospitals such as yourself? How imperative do you see that be?
Data in healthcare is, see, I have entered healthcare IT about 3 years ago. Prior to that, I was a typical enterprise IT guy designing data centers and things like that. The transformation or transition between that role and this role has been phenomenal. I never understood or thought that there could be so much of data which is lying there to be streamlined, organized to make it meaningful. For example, there can be a trend of blood pressure figures which has to be monitored every, let's say, half an hour for a patient, which results in the correlating with the medication given, which results in the drug to drug or drug to ailment kind of a interaction, which sets up a trend in managing an element effectively. So data, collection of data is very critical. That data can only be collected by using IoTs and transducers at a perfect time, because the periodicity of collection, if it is organized and going on a predicted way, then it can give you a trend line. There should not be any human intervention. Like what we have done is we are a COVID treatment center as well,
Indeed.
and in fact, out of 8 floors that are operational in my hospital, almost 1.5 floor is dedicated to COVID treatment. There are patients sleeping on the bed in their rooms, and those mattresses, they have a transducer sending out the data. We have done that kind of automation. All that data comes on a portal. That portal forms the trend line, and our senior consultants or treating doctors can make their decisions on that trend line. So in a very short span of time, we were able to reconfigure our thought process to deliver that technology.
Indeed.
The human mind is a very flexible. How effectively you use and put to use to manage all this data, granularize the task, present it in a meaningful way, which leads to CDSS, Clinical Decision Support System in healthcare. That is very required. And I'm sure very few people in industry have realized this during this pandemic days, because necessity is mother of invention, so we innovated a lot of things.
It's very fascinating that you say this because I'm going to pick out a few points that you mentioned, Unmesh. I'm going to take this to you, Rajat, which is the whole concept of experiences and the very, very vast, high degrees of personalization and customization today that is prevalent across pretty much all walks of enterprise as well as life, but particularly so in education. Now, this entire spectrum of the teacher student and the student teacher relationship or the experience, uh, and of course, student curriculum experiences are vastly governed by the ability of data to lead to insights that will help in the development of the curriculum, of newer methods of teaching, of imparting knowledge, and so on and so forth. Now, from that perspective, how in the education sector are you folks leveraging collection of data, processing it, storing it, of course, and then leading to insights? And how is that being leveraged in the education system? Rajat.
So, in the education world, you know, I would say, let me just first generalize it, not just on the education side, but what the companies are currently going through, right? There's a lot of technical and economic realities, and in the traditional industries are under attack right now, right? The competition, which is becoming more and more dynamic, and the customer preferences and their expectations, which are just changing, they're forever changing and shifting the technology landscape. Now, that's becoming very central to the businesses, and in particularly in the education world, we have been exploring the RPA, ML, blockchain technologies, deep learning, and then raft of other technological tools to determine the role that they all will play in every single aspect of the business. So GUS, which is primarily marketing, digital marketing, and a corporate, which sort of enables and makes the institutes profitable, really, uses these technologies into the day-to-day life, and we are trying to enable each and every business function in that category. So essentially, what we were talking up till now is the modernizing of the IT infrastructure, the layer under that, and how can we then enable these technologies to sit on top of that and then be able to create the right sort of an architecture to enable it. So we have been exclusively working along those lines as an organization, working on very interesting projects to modernize and digitize our underlying infrastructure, and then have the right sort of IT architectures, improve your systems, your people, your processes, and then the right sort of determining the right sequence and the scope of change along those lines. So yeah, I mean, if this sort of gives you a perspective to what you were asking me.
Indeed does, because it's very fascinating. Because I'm going to take the same question to you, Nimesh. Is this entire concept of the experience that I, as a patient, perhaps have on walking into a hospital, then interacting at the counter, then with the doctor, then with the nurses, and then with, let's say, various other facets. How do you see data infused with artificial intelligence layers and solutions playing a very important role in enabling you as healthcare providers to significantly enhance the experience I, as a patient or as a consumer, have within a hospital?
That's a very interesting question, and currently there are no definite decisive answers to that, right? Because use of collected data or use of available information as a data depends upon what kind of a outlook does the organization have. Is it a patient centric, patient first, or organization first, or otherwise, right? uh, Looking at Kingsway, what we do is it's our patient first. because he is the primary cause of our establishment.
True. The
This
very reason for your existence.
yes, this establishment, as our punchline says, personalizing healthcare. Every patient is unique for us. Every treatment that we or every service that we render to every patient is unique because every person has a different likings. Now, how do you uh, analyze all these differences, different parameters? Having said that, everything is different for everybody. There could be emergence of large data sets and creating different trends. All these trends can be analyzed later on to form if let's say future like if you are aware that Kingsway is located at Nagpur, which is center of the country, and it's in close vicinity of Madhya Pradesh border. It's close vicinity to Chhattisgarh. It's in close vicinity with Andhra Pradesh also. So you know the kind of patients that we get from these neighboring states, that percentage is pretty high.
Indeed.
The cultural and attitude changes of all the patients and the relatives coming in from these areas, they are totally different. So what we do while a patient comes in, if he is our previous patient, then no problem at all. We know everything and most of the things about them. If it is a new patient, merely by taking Aadhaar number and the reading QR code on that, my demographics, they automatically get filled,
Indeed.
right? Once the demographics get automatically filled, we are developing a pop-up kind of stuff that what kind of services do people require coming in from this kind of a area,
Indeed.
you know, pin code, sub pin code area. Because in India, what we would have observed, even all of both of you would agree with me, that we are a country with a diverse kind of cultures, you know, which is not available in rest of the world.
Indeed, so.
With this diversity, predictability is also diverse. If the patient is from neighboring city XYZ, then probably the ailments would be like this because it is location specific.
Indeed.
So all these correlations can be derived.
Very interesting. That's
We are at an early stage of this. This is nothing but AI, right? Computer is telling you that, boss, this patient is from this area, and possibility is that he may also have this ailment.
indeed.
That is AI. So we are just about a year and a half into operations. So we are trying our level best to develop internal strategies to really put all these things in.
That's fascinating, really. But I'm going to take, an offshoot of that to you, Rajat, which is this is a whole concept, it seems fairly established that data is important, data is oil, data is capital, and that when infused with AI, it obviously promises very, very satisfactory results. But in your experience as a practitioner and in your guidance to this wonderful audience that's listening in to us and tuning in with us today, one of the questions that we would certainly like to understand is, do people perhaps folly in taking on digital transformation projects on data and AI without looking at the underlying infrastructure modernization that is so, so critical if you really want success out of your data and AI related transformation initiatives? And how and what is your guidance to them on that?
Yes, I mean, it has to be a holistic approach, Arjun. I mean, you got to have a design thinking principle in the way you approach um, modernizing and enabling through emerging technologies, right? The infrastructure and the underlying layer uh, definitely plays a key role in incorporating and then introducing new technologies on top of that. I remember in the late 90s and the early 20s, we had change which was very slow, and it was uh, strategic thinking by technologies was long term. And to be sustainable, the software systems, the applications, and the architectures, uh, you know, it had to last long and then persist over time. You fast forward that to 2020, and then everything has dramatically changed. The sustainability, besides being green and lean, means that we build today what has to be easily and quickly changed tomorrow. So essentially, your strategic plans are short term, and planning and change is continuous, right? So there's no signs of slowing down to that point. So in my view, it's the adaptive nature. It's a very holistic. What am I going to construct that will cater to the needs of my business in the immediate future? And how can I be more agile and nimble in delivering the services that I ought to do to the line of businesses? And your technology strategy has to definitely align to that, right? The choice of your technology stack that you choose in that regards plays a key role. So, the truth is that you're never going to get a future-proof uh, your organization, right? If you're going to look it through a strategic lens. So my view is that you got to look at the infrastructure service offerings, the underlying layer, in a way that the business wants, and then have a complete view of what the pipeline says to you, and then accordingly design and sort of reverse engineer that, and then come up with the right solutions for it. Um, get cloud first getting onto the cloud, having a cloud first strategy is important. Having a AI first mindset is important, um, and try and stitch all of this together as a technology leader for any corporate is what I would say.
That's fascinating because that's exactly what I'm going to bring to you, Umesh. As organizations are increasingly compelled or are forcing themselves to think digitally first or digitally native, and like Rajat rightly said, have a AI first mindset. Uh, while of course looking at legacy infrastructure and then the entire modernization process, what according to you are the challenges that organizations tend to face that need very, very critical and careful consideration, and therefore what are the pitfalls that must be avoided?
That's a good question. Uh, what I feel is upgrading or modernizing IT infrastructure is a merely task of creating a proper BOQ, finding a vendor who can supply, install, configure it. But that is not the end. Of course, that is necessary because unless you have a strong foundation, you can't build a castle on it.
True that.
Now, what kind of a castle you want to build depends upon what kind of a attitude and appetite the organization has.
Indeed.
If the attitude of the organization is cloud first, then you don't need to invest too much on local infra. You need to talk to companies like AWS or any other cloud service provider who can support you, whether you want to go in for a platform hosting or infrastructure hosting, or you want to utilize some SaaS services. All these decisions, they will come into being when you decide whether you want to go cloud first or AI first. But there is a third option as well. Can we go partially cloud first and AI at the native end, or vice versa? So all these things are a part of your business, or rather your business strategy can answer all these things. A business strategy can be developed looking at a long term. Today in IT, when we say long term, I don't think anybody is looking beyond 5 years. It's a
Certainly not.
typical interview question. Where do you see yourself after 5 years? So similarly, that question is applicable to technology as well, right?
Indeed.
So look, if you have a horizon of 5 years and a project rollout is taking about 18 months to really modernize and come to your pace, we must remember and factor in those 18 months to modernize your technology stack have cost you 18 months. So you need to factor in those 18 months as well, so that when the technology is ready to be used, you are in sync with the time after 18 months, right? So there are so many examples where people did not calculate about these 18 months And when they leveraged on technology saying that I'm technology ready, they were 18 months old. They were still using IPv4s when V6 is predominant today,
Indeed.
right? So all these decisions are there. Technology has to be uh, nowadays prioritized with artificial intelligence. You know, manpower is becoming more and more expensive and rare to really find qualitative, intelligent thinkers within the organization. There are so many people who are qualitative, intelligent thinkers as far as technology and strategy is concerned, but they are expensive. Not every organization can afford a highly paid resource at that end.
Indeed, sir. Indeed, sir.
So might as well convert that resource into a technology offering and infuse that intelligence within your system.
That's fascinating, Unmesh. That's actually fascinating because I'm going to take that and something that you mentioned to Rajat. Rajat, this as more and more organizations, and in fact, industry by itself starts becoming cognizant and therefore being able to leverage the power of that AI and machine learning and deep learning, like you mentioned. There's also this very important, well, concept of the convergence of human capital and AI infused solutions for the larger good of the organization, of the enterprise. How do you kind of see that journey panning out?
Yes, so Arjun, I think that's a very relevant question. And in the current times, the way organizations, especially in our case, how we approach it is that we keep automation and driving efficiencies at the heart of it, right? And we try and bring about the right mix through through using processes, automation tool, as well as the human capital to bring about this particular change in the way we operate. So we've been leveraging AI and other technologies in that regards, and the pace of adoption at our end has been pretty rapid. The global institutions that we support all are showing the similar trend, which is to leverage automation to be able to drive more value. Now, uh, it contributes to our productivity, right? As it has already been, it's already done historically. And at a time of this, we've seen a bit of a productivity growth. This is definitely going to help us boost the economic growth as well as the prosperity that we're looking for. Now, there are a couple of things I'd like to mention here in terms of how we have, what are the things that gets benefited out of this approach in our organization. One, of course, is the customer interaction part of it, which is that every single interaction is for us is another opportunity for our for our company to satisfy the customers and then retain them and stuff. So very important for us to leverage AI in that regards, having a human to machine chatbots, human to human interaction, virtual assistants, and those kinds of intelligent conversational agents, right? And at the same time, we also have the other aspect, which is the sales platforms that are right now transforming. We've been using very smart dialers, uh, just moving away from the traditional methods of, it's basically selling your products and services. So automation and AI is definitely strengthening our business model in the sales side of it as well as I mean I can definitely quote companies like Amazon, Alibaba, and Netflix, and some of those companies that have been using these the very intelligent sales platform to be able to get to their customers. So that definitely has helped us, and we've looked at automation, we've looked at people skilling, reskilling them, uh, and all kinds of various mixes to introduce this new culture of being technology driven, right? And it's I can tell you it's pretty evident in our case. It's uh, people of all business functions have been acknowledging that, and the IT leadership is definitely very, very excited about that. And in such times are working hand in hand to make it a possibility.
You made a very interesting point there, which is what I'm going to bring to you, Unmesh, which is Rajat spoke about the whole concept of automation in AI delivering significantly and vastly more efficiencies than we've ever believed to be possible. And while all of this is happening, organizations such as yourselves, for example, are also creating what is called the digital core. Now, in your essential guidance to IT practitioners, CIOs, IT leaders, line of business leaders, how should they approach this entire journey? Should it be one singular journey, or would you rather recommend that it be done in phases? What is your view in achieving the maximum and the best results?
Uh, that's a complex question to be pinpointedly answered.
True
But
that.
anyway, I think Arjun is known for that. On a lighter note, sorry. Uh, See, what we need to do is every organization has to create one manifesto, which possibly could be termed as agile manifesto. So, what agility you want to bring in to your system, to your organizations and organization's culture. How agile you want to have your organization. More and more infusion of technologies and processes like artificial intelligence or what Rajat mentioned as RPAs previously. These are all candidates to or catalysts to automation, right? They are not automation on their own because they can add as a catalyst to your existing process to automate, not just to automate but intelligently automate, thus resulting into artificial intelligence presence in your system, right? Now, having talked about such agile manifesto, uh, one must align the practices, processes, business application of your organized existing ones with this manifesto and see if there are any gaps in it. If there are gaps, you need to form a bridge or redesign these processes so that there are no gaps. Once there are no gaps, then the bridge between what you have and what you want gets automatically bridged. And there is a express highway
True.
connected, right? Once that express highway is there, it creates a non-blocking thought and process architecture within your system and organization. That is very crucial. That is very important for embarking on any digitization journey. Once you have embarked on such a journey, you should be very, very careful about your plans for mitigation of any risk. So, risk evaluation of going digital has to be there. For example, I am from a healthcare industry and I digitize everything and make my office and entire operation 100% paperless. But what if most of my patients are coming from rural area who do not have mobile connectivity in their villages? What kind of a reports that they are going to access on web or through patient portal? It becomes meaningless. They
Indeed.
still need that hard copy and a photo film of that X-ray or CT MRI, right? So you need to evaluate who are your customers, what kind of automation they'll be able to digest, sustain, and help you with it. So, digitization and putting a lot of artificial into the system, it's a good thing to have. But is it must? That question needs to be answered.
Very interesting.
And a proper mix of automation, non-automation, conventional, and traditional has to be worked out, which is going to be a business specific as per their physical and geographical location and also the clientele.
Very fascinating, gentlemen. But I do have a view on the clock. I do know you have hard stops in a couple of minutes. Still allows me to sneak in one question to each of you. Rajat, I come to you. That single biggest opportunity when you look into the future that mandates pretty much makes it compulsory for organizations to adopt data infused with artificial intelligence today if they want to realize that opportunity. Rajat Arora.
Yes, I mean, there is a huge, huge opportunity in terms of leveraging data, and as we say that data is the new oil, and I think I've sort of read a lot of leaders talk about it, how data holds that opportunity to transform businesses and make companies profitable. um, there is this trend and culture shift in terms of leveraging that data, be dependent on it, extract intelligence out of it, and use it to your benefit. I I personally feel really excited about it, Arjun, and I feel that companies are going to embrace this. Um, I think what Unmesh just mentioned a while back about how it all applies to the line of business and your industry trade, whether you look at your priorities and you see where, what sort of a model do we go with. I personally feel in the world of education, it definitely is going to hold the key in terms of transforming, in terms of bringing in the new technologies to bring a very hybrid approach to conducting education for students. And digital transformation is on. We have been doing that in various phases, and the very next phase, which is all data driven, which is all data centric, is currently on. And we have we personally see a lot of students benefiting out of it, and their experience towards education changing through this mix. So yeah, I mean, that's going to be the reality, and I think we are up for it, and we're moving. I think we're moving the right directions.
Outstanding. And Unmesh, same question to you. That single biggest opportunity that you see in the foreseeable future that is up for grabs, that will mandate organizations to adopt today and adopt in confident and an all-embracing manner.
Uh, See, there are. I would like to stick to my industry because that matters me the most as of now. We are a frontline workers, and we are the way we are countering and trying to counter this pandemic today is predominantly because of we are already using a lot of technology. You know, usage of technology creates a inevitable barrier between the infection and the consultant. The more effective rollout of technology happens and strengthens this barrier, I've got more and more higher senior level medical consultants treating better and better patients. You know,
Indeed.
so it's directly proportional. So infusion of data driven technology or using data to form an analytic model which will govern the decisions of addressing the customer needs will be the focus.
Standing very, very well said, gentlemen, but that pretty much is all that we have time for. Unmesh Deshpande, Rajat Arora, it's been nothing short of fascinating speaking with you and hearing your views. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And for the audience, you were with Arjun Vishwanathan, your host, and I was in conversation with Unmesh Deshpande and Rajat Arora. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a moment with the next segment.
Thank you, Arjun, for engaging our IT leader guests in an insightful panel discussion on their experiences with furthering their digital transformation journey. Dear delegates, do remember to fill out the feedback form at the end of today's webinar episode. Your feedback is invaluable as it helps us improve the content, structure, and presentation of our webinars and virtual conferences. Ladies and gentlemen, our next session is a panel discussion with three solution experts from Dell Technologies, Microsoft, and VMware. In keeping with the theme of today's episode, Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Research Officer Strategy, will engage in a conversation with these experts on how digital and new age technologies can be embedded within the enterprise and the benefits this will bring. The culture and mindset shift that will be most beneficial in countering adverse situations to come out on top. How technology can aid leadership achieve key business milestones through scalable, adaptable, and robust IT solutions and infrastructure. Over to you, Arjun.
Hello and good morning. My name is Arjun Vishwanathan, and I will be your host today to talk about something that is phenomenally fascinating. The whole concept of mobilizing artificial intelligence and therefore being able to transform data from being just and sheer capital to a strategic business asset requires conversations at a very, very expansive level. And not just expansive, but also from the points of view of depth. In order to talk about how organizations are looking at leveraging data with the benefits of artificial intelligence to deliver and effect real-time outcomes is a story that is going to dominate the industrial landscape for a long, long time to come. And to talk about this and discuss this in much, much more deeper detail, please join me in welcoming very, very, very eminent industry specialists. And in no specific order, let me introduce Xavier Kurian, Director Solutions and Alliances, Dell Technologies. Xavier, wonderful to have you back, sir.
Awesome to be here, Arjun.
Thank you. Sudipto Shekhar Ghosh, Director Device Marketing at Microsoft. Sudipto, lovely to have you with us. Thank you. And Rajesh Ramnani, Director VMware Synergy at VMware.
Glad
Rajesh,
to be here.
lovely as always to have you back, sir. Rajesh, why don't I kind of start it off with you? This whole concept of how organizations in their quest today, and when I say today, I say it in a very considered fashion, given the backdrop of the disruption that we've just experienced over the last year or so, as organizations begin to wake up to the fact that they've got to build three very, very critical traits. The first is resilience, the second is resurgence, and the third is hypercompetitiveness. When it comes down to that, how important a role do you see data infused with artificial intelligence and machine learning abilities play perhaps a pivotal role, or would you think otherwise? Rajesh Ramnani.
Yeah, thanks, Arjun, and glad to be again with you talking about something which is so relevant in today's scenario. But to answer your question, let me give you with an personal experience which I have had some time ago when travel was allowed and we were in an event, a VMware Dell event, and this was in Europe, and there was a German company which we had showcasing a solution. And it was actually a kitchenware company with containers. Now, we wanted to know what role will Dell and VMware play in such an organization. So, what this company had, they had these containers in which you keep all the grocery stuff, right? And essentially speaking, what these containers were intelligent containers. And I wanted to understand what is intelligent container. So what happens is in those is if the level of certain groceries go down below a certain level, a trigger is emitted from the container and it goes to the grocery shop or the company, and automatically without you knowing, the stuff used to land at your door. So they were called intelligent containers, and at the end of it, the backend was not as simple as how it sounded at the front end. The backend required data and AI to come together. Because if you see, these systems had bots or small robots built into it. And as soon as the level reached there, and these bots became intelligent over time. At a certain point in time, even before it reached there, they knew this time of the month, generally this grocery becomes less, and then it started sending those signals without it reaching that level. So essentially, it was becoming more of a norm, and that was one of the more popular ones over there. But what we were seeing is there was a data lake which was created, information about the end user. There were bots which were going and collecting that information and sending that relevant information to the organization. And that company, with its tie up at the back end, was sending stuff back home. So I think more and more uh, IoTization is happening, as we call it, or for that more and more AI is gaining ground. These solutions will come at the forte, and the backend infrastructure from organizations like Microsoft, Dell, and VMware will play an even more pivotal role in applying these applications to that relevant data and gathering the information.
Indeed, that's a fascinating story, really. And I can just think about how its applications could just encompass so many spheres of daily life. But Sudipta, with your permission, if I may come to you, it's well, there's clearly enough evidence today to observe that AI is delivering real-time and credible results for organizations, especially when coupled with their abilities to not just capture and store, but also process data at its source. In that kind of a situation, really, Sudipto, how do you see organizations such as Microsoft, your organization, crafting strategies and solutions to enable Indian industry to start with to actually leverage the impact and the benefits and move forward in a more resolute manner?
Perfect. Thanks, Arjun. I love Rajesh's example. In fact, that was really unique. Containers to me always is still Microsoft Kubernetes and containers, but this was really interesting. So thanks, Rajesh. I'll take a couple of steps back, and this is important because we just went through what 2020 was, right? 2020 actually taught us a couple of things. One, that there is no organization on this planet that is 100% resilient. And if that thing needs to come, that resilience, that agility needs to come, it's important. Only those who have understood what has happened can take decisions. And to understand what has happened, data comes right at the center, right? Unfortunately, what happens is people don't give enough value to data in that moment. They only believe that they heard this quote that data is the new oil, so let me keep oil with me. But really, to utilize that oil in the right manner is not happening at this moment. And I think that's where a lot of digital transformation needs to happen. And as Rajesh said, I completely agree with him. I think it is the onus of corporations like ours, which is Dell, VMware, Microsoft, to take this knowledge, to take this urgency to our customers and partners. That's what I believe. Lastly, I want to also define one more thing, which is important, is there is a cost of everything that we do. But in this case, there's a cost of inaction, which can happen. So it's very important that people know what is the cost of doing nothing. So it is important that we do something around it.
Thank you, Sudipta, because Xavier, I'm going to come to you with a couple of points. Given your vista, given the spectrum that you have in your ability to envision newer solutions, coupled with this very old saying that said, in God we trust, everyone else must bring data. When you see that kind of coming together, which is what Rajesh and Sudeep rightly articulated, you're at the center of creating the solutions that will fuel innovation within industries, will fuel the spirit of invention equally. When you see that, that's a fairly large role that Dell Technologies in its association with Microsoft and VMware is playing. How do you see that progressing over the next few years as they were to unfold?
Okay, so let me come to that with a bit of an example, right? And what Sudipto said about the cost of inaction is high is absolutely prevalent, and organizations are starting to see it. Now, we've been talking about data as the new oil for some time now, right? And organizations have realized that there is value in data, and they've started collecting data, and they've started storing all of this data. Now, the problem, as you rightly said, is that all of that data is there. Is it really getting utilized today? Right. So the value of data does not come from keeping it in a storage box somewhere. The value of data comes from the ability to derive insights out of it and derive them right. Let me give you a couple of examples, and I'll give you two spectrums of it. If you've noticed airline fares over the last, I'm going to say a year, something went wrong in the airline system when the pandemic started. There was a time where you could buy a round trip to the US and back for about 40,000 rupees, right? That's because an AI algorithm sat there and said that, hey, nobody's booking tickets.
There's no demand.
There's no demand. Let's go knock down the prices, hoping that demand goes up. Wrong. That's an example of a wrong decision taken by an AI. But a lot of those decisions today with regard to airline tickets are taken by an AI. It's no longer a human being sitting and making those decisions. Obviously, corrections were made. There is additional cost because airlines are running empty, and prices corrected really fast. Let me give you the other side of it. As we've progressed over the last, I'm going to say over the last year, the ability to use legacy data has become a little more strained, and I'll give you a couple of examples. If you look at a distribution model, if you look at a distribution company that was taking out stock to distribution centers across India, the pattern of consumption that happened till March of last year, of 2020, and what's happening right now has actually changed quite a bit, right? Because the trend lines don't really hold anymore. So the system needed to learn, and it needed to learn fast, right? The ability of having that granular data and to be able to consume that data and go identify where the problems are, go identify what is it that you can solve for, and what is it that you need to look at only 6 months worth of data to go build the next trend line, is fairly important, and you need the systems to be able to put that intelligence together. It's not today enough to just collect all of this data and say that, hey, I'm going to hold on to it, and maybe run some analytics on it. You need to have a very precise methodology on how you're going to go consume that data. How much of that, how much weight are you going to give to different sets of data? And I've been saying this for some time. The role of the data scientist in an organization is becoming more critical, very critical. Now, collecting the data we've spoken about, there's a lot of data that organizations are already collecting. But today, what's getting more critical is the ability to put the infrastructure together to go analyze that data.
That's a very fascinating aspect, Xavier, because with your permission, I'm going to take that to Rajesh, then Sudipta, and then I'm going to come back to you. Rajesh, very, very important aspect, which is that the underlying infrastructure has to be extremely robust. But I'm going to kind of take 2-3 steps back, and I'm going to ask you, Rajesh, from the VMware perspective, as well as the association with Dell and Microsoft, is how should organizations even approach the whole concept of modernization of infrastructure, layering it with solutions such as artificial intelligence and machine learning, and to therefore create effect on data moving on to strategic business insights. How, in your view, should they even approach the whole concept of embedding that concept within their overall organization strategy?
That's a very good point, Arjun, and I completely agree with Xavier when he mentioned that data is not there just to be lying around, right? It has to be used in some form or the other. And a good example of it is in our daily lives when we go and try and look for something like maybe a loan, and then suddenly everywhere you go, you see ads of these loan companies just popping up as if God has heard you and trying to share with you the best way to go about it. Now, this is a good example of data, your requirements in form of data being used by organizations. But the question is it the right way to go about it? So, what we have seen personally is applications that are so intelligent that they worked as a triple-edged sword. You've heard of double-edged, but in triple-edged sword, what I mean is that they are capturing your information at one end, they are capturing the solution at the other end, and they are interacting with you at the third end in real time while capturing your requirement and information as well as the solution. And how it is being done is basically there is what we have seen in practice, that there is a data lake. There is a huge information of data. There are applications in form of bots which are crawling over this data and then generating this information. And to your point on what is the right way from an infrastructure perspective to go about it, at VMware, we ran a project called Milky Way. And this was essentially to identify what is the right solution when such information needs to be captured, processed, as well as communicated to the or to the user in real time. So what we found out that when data is spread across different environments, it may be your own data center, it may be some public cloud providers, it may be some edge locations, the application needs to be present in some form in close to this data so that the capture can be sooner. And then when this data is captured from all these locations and then directed to the users in real time basis, there is no lag in the requirement as well as giving the solution. So we came up with this project called Milky Way, wherein we tried to simplify this whole process, wherein there is a seamless platform and applications can be ported, AI applications could be ported either on-prem, on cloud, and moved between these multiple environments as so that we could generate as much impact to the end user as much as possible. So on the underlying layer, we had a trusted solution from Dell on-prem. We may have AWS, Google, such public service providers or the service providers. On top of it, trusted VMware layer and the application footprint, which was mostly on Microsoft. So that's how these three organizations came together to deliver this experience.
Outstanding. That's fascinating, really. But Sudipta, I'm going to bring that to you also in the same measure by asking you at Microsoft, what is the innovation that is happening when you look at data, AI, and obviously the modernization of the underlying infrastructure to actually foster a spirit of invention and innovation equally within industry?
Great question. Thanks for asking that. In fact, I love the example which Xavier gave about airlines and all. We've really seen those type of disruptions happening. But data. I always say this within the team that data is a very small word compared to the impact that it can actually bring. And now data actually sits on the asset side of a balance sheet, right? So that's something which people realize. But what they don't realize is that only when we take that data and put it to use, we've just heard about this from both Rajesh and Xavier, is when we put it to use, that's when the value of data is. But there are two very critical components to that. First and foremost, what that data is, right? And basically, the data, is it how relevant it is for me for the business decisions to take? And second is a very unique problem, which I think corporations like ours will realize, is where the data is, right? Because many of us know there's a lot of data, but where does the data hide? So they're just two innovations that have come up. In fact, one of them is less than a week old. There's a project of Microsoft which is called Project Purview. So that actually provides you, it's Azure Purview. It's a tool on Microsoft Azure, which provides you all that visibility of where your data lies. And not just where the data lies, how compliant that data is, because both of those are very important aspects. And we want to give, especially to enterprises, that importance of that the data is compliant and is being managed in the right manner. So that's one. And obviously, we've heard of handling large size of data with Azure Synapse. So that's a beautiful proposition that we have, which is just not about data, big data, and how do you marry both of these. I love the analogy which Rajesh gave on the Milky Way project. So very similar in those lines. So how do we build up? So those are two things which I can talk about, which are just recently, which ideally corporations should adopt, to find out what the data is and where the data is.
Thanks, Sudipta. That's very, very important. And I am bringing that in similar measures, Xavier, to you also, which is, and of course, with a caveat of sorts, which is that it is important today. And if you look at the contemporary Indian industrial space, organizations have realized that they've got to be more agile, they've got to be more adaptive, and they've got to kind of, in a cliched manner, future-proof their organizations from, well, uncertainties of the future. Now, in that kind of a concept, when you look at how critical or imperative a role the data plays or insights play, how important is this whole strategy of of modernizing the very foundation of the infrastructure which is going to be the engine that will help you build the layers on top and therefore take your organization forward in a more resolute, more confident manner.
I want to harp on that word future proof that you use, right? Pace at which technology is changing with respect to artificial intelligence and analytic solutions that are out there. It is really difficult to go and say what's going to be at the top of the pyramid a year from now, 6 months from now, right? There's going to be new solutions. There's going to be new functions that come up on a weekly basis, right? We put up this chart some time ago about the number of applications that are available in the AI, in the artificial intelligence space for manufacturing. The average size of each of those logos was so small that it wasn't worth presenting, right? There's already so much out there in just the manufacturing space that that there's and you need to go and pick that one which works right for your organization.
True that.
What you need to be building today is the method of how you're going to go deliver that service to the organization, right? And that comes to your word called future proofing. What Dell as an organization is trying to do is to build the platform on which is flexible, which can go and adapt to each of those applications out there, create the data sources so that these applications can read and read efficiently. It's read is the read part is easy. Read efficiently and with the right amount of insight is far more critical. We've gone and put that platform together. We've gone and put the method of how to go deploy your storage environment, your compute environment, so that you can go and pick and choose what application you go use, how you go deploy it, and sometime later, if something changes, how do you go change this infrastructure to go adapt to that to that change 6 months, a year, 2 years from now? We've done this with a lot of with a lot of help. We've done it with help from a lot of our partners. We've done it, and we've put all of this together so that it becomes a template or a blueprint which customers can go deploy. Now, while we were doing that, we also realized that it's not going to work without connections to Azure and some of the other cloud providers, and we built those in as well. So what I'm trying to say is that it's important today is to be thinking of how your infrastructure is going to look a year and a half from now, and to go build that flexibility in today, that you are agile a year and a half and you're not completely disrupted 2 years from now when you need to go adopt a technology that you've not heard of till date. So
very, very interesting. But gentlemen, I do have 7 minutes on the clock, and there's a very important question that merits the kind of importance. And I'm going to start with you, Rajesh. Rajesh, I look at this question as if it were coming on behalf of this wonderful audience that's tuning in and listening in to us today, which is that the technology exists. The beauty and the fact of what it can deliver is also very clear and present. However, one question that remains is, as organizations set out their blueprints, like Xavier rightly said, should this overall concept of modernization of infrastructure layered with artificial intelligence, therefore leading to business insights? From your perspective at VMware and in the association with Microsoft and Dell, should organizations look at this entire process as a single journey, or should it be carried out in phases? Because that's a very, very important aspect to their ability to even want to sit down and say, let's start talking about this.
So, yes, Arjun. So I believe that it is a journey, and organizations today, in many ways, have started on this journey, and they are learning as they are growing towards it. Now, the question many organizations are asking, and it is real for that matter, and we go to organizations and we check with them. They clearly ask, will AI completely replace manpower, or do we actually need men to be there physically in the organization? Because somewhere they believe that artificial intelligence is becoming much more intelligent than the real intelligence.
True.
So, and they are in that journey. They want to make that possible. But today, as rightly mentioned by all the speakers, the underlying data which is there and the credibility of that data is what will define the future of how successful the overarching solution or AI can be, because it is as good as the underlying data. Today, if information about me itself is incorrect, then what will AI do at the end of the day? So what we have seen, the process that organizations are following up today is first trying to capture data from as many sources as possible about their individual customers. Second is step two is they are trying to filter that data to be made as relevant as possible to their organization, because there is so much of data that they can collect for one person. How relevant it is for their organization. Third is what they are trying to do as step number three is making their systems more and more capable to capture that data. And fourth, they are trying to do is connecting the solutions to the requirement and then trying to deliver it in the best possible fashion, whether it is in person, whether it is virtual, or whatever possible to deliver that data. So, as you rightly said, underlying infrastructure, overarching management, and third, the application footprint all will play a very pivotal role as per what we have seen.
Interesting. Sudipta, I come to you with the same question, sir. Uh, Organizations increasingly want to understand from experts such as Microsoft on how they should be even approaching this journey. And let's face it, this journey promises to be exciting, promises to be extremely rewarding, but is complex at
Yep.
various levels.
Yep.
From Microsoft's perspective, what is your essential guidance to organizations?
See, absolutely, Arjun. In fact, I'll just pick on that word agility that you mentioned. In fact, so agility, unfortunately, many of us believe agility is speed. I have to do something very fast. And what becomes is it actually is to the view that stability is not part of agility. On the contrary, agility actually brings stability. That's what it is supposed to do, right? Now, to bring that, I think two important points. I'll refer Peter Drucker's word on culture. You know that it eats culture eats strategy for breakfast or lunch or whatever. There's some amount of eating involved. But what's important is it's a journey for sure. It's a climb, right? And the climb is not, according to me, only it looks vertical at this moment, but it is only possible when we do that across the organization. So it's a vertical and horizontal effort that we need to do. It cannot be that, for example, Xavier mentioned the importance of the data scientist, that only I have a team of 6 people who manage that for the organization. No, it has to be everywhere. It has to be from from the security guard at the entrance. How do I involve data?
Embedded in the very fabric of the organization.
Absolutely, that's important. And just to trying to sell a product of ours that got launched last week, there's a product called Microsoft Viva, which is
Right.
about employee engagement. And these are the type of tools, how do you leverage? So leveraging AI to train AI logically. That's what it is. And to the point which Rajesh mentioned, we actually have this fear that AI is becoming more smarter than us. It's almost like what 2 generations before us had happened, right? Where people registered computers to come in, that jobs will go away and all, which is not what the situation is. This is about not AI using us, but we using AI. That's where I leave this.
Very poignantly put. Xavier, I come to you with the same question, sir. It promises to be extremely rewarding as a journey. It and like Sudipta said, it could be an ascent, but it is also parallel walking. How, from Dell Technologies' perspective, are you essentially guiding organizations, holding their hands and walking towards what I know for a fact you promise to be a very resolute future?
So I'll answer the first piece with this statement. If the AI does not make decisions better than the human, something's wrong, right? The objective of any system-based decision process is that that decision process is equal to or slightly better than what a human can make, right? And we've seen this with self-driving cars. We've seen this with a lot of other solutions that are starting to gain a lot of prevalence in the market. The beauty about an AI is that it's looking at a set of data which no human possibly can. It needs to be better, right? That's the first part. The second part of that is that it's not about going and saying that, hey, I'm going to go deploy AI in my entire organization. It's about taking that first step. It's about finding that sweet spot where AI can make the most impact, and taking that leap of faith, saying that, hey, this is going to work out well for the organization. A lot of organizations already have, right? If you look at a lot of organizations in the web tech space, in the edutech space, in the manufacturing space, a lot of those organizations already have taken that leap of faith of saying that, hey, I need to monetize this data. I need to go see what I can get out of this data. And they're starting to see the rewards. We are starting to see the next step to that. You know, I've optimized my supply chain. Now can I go and save 10% of supply chain fuel costs, right? Can I reduce fuel spent by delivery personnel? There are n number of solutions out there, but how much money you can save should be directly proportional to a decision on let's go do it. Now, is it all going to work? I guarantee you it's not, right? There's going to be that 5% of times where you make it that it goes wrong and you don't recover all of it. But will it always show a positive ROI? In today's technology space, almost definitely. The space is already ready for it, right? So the one piece of advice I have to everybody is that make the attempt. If you've not done it already, it now is the time to go make the attempt. Find the space where it's going to have, where you think it's going to make maximum impact, and talk to somebody who can help you set it up.
Fascinating. But that I do have a view on the clock, but well, I am greedy and I'm going to sneak in one question. Gentlemen, each of you have about 10 seconds to answer this one question. Rajesh, I'll come to you. Given the criticality, given the expanse of what AI-driven, data-led insights promises, in the future, do you see AI replacing what we used to call gut sense? Rajesh from London.
Yeah, that's a very tricky question. I don't want the audience coming and hitting me after this. But I would say there is no way. The gut always will be prevalent over. I think God has made us much, much more intelligent than simple AI to take us over. So my view is no way. But of course, what we do believe is that both will coexist and live in harmony for the betterment of the society.
Outstanding. That is a fairly diplomatic answer. Sudipto, I'm coming to you. AI versus gut. Do you see one replacing the other? I mean, well, at least AI replacing gut.
No way. Completely in harmony with what Rajesh said. But remember one thing. If humans have to lead, they have to bring in the ingenuity. They have to bring in how we're going to leverage that. And the point that Javier mentioned is start somewhere. Take that first step. That's very important. And I would strongly recommend that you have the right set of partners to do that step. Otherwise, all the wrong things can happen.
Important. That's very well said. And Xavier, last but not the least.
I don't think an AI can replace a gut, but I think gut is going to be augmented by AI.
Outstanding. That's a very fresh perspective to it. But gentlemen, this has been nothing short of fascinating. I'm deeply, deeply grateful to each of you for kind of making out the time to talk to us for the last 35 odd minutes. I know you've got busy schedules. Thank you so very much. It has been nothing short of a privilege. Thank you.
That was truly insightful. Thank you, Arjun and solution experts, for sharing your valuable views and guidance. Dear delegates, that's all we have for you. We hope you enjoyed the first episode of Strateging's Digital Dialogue Season 5 that we brought you today. Please do take a minute to fill out and submit your feedback form. On behalf of Strateging, Dell Technologies, Microsoft, and VMware, we thank you for attending and our panelists and speakers for enriching us with their experiences and expert insights on digital transformation challenges and opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, the next episode of Digital Dialogue Season 5 will be on the theme Mobilizing AI, Transforming Data from Capital to Business Asset. We look forward to you joining us at 11 a.m. on 12th March 2021 from your favorite PC or smart device for a great online experience. Take care, stay safe. This is Ushma Tyagi signing off on behalf of Strateging Solutions.